And the Sooners are getting more predictions in favor of another recruit, this time from Chad Simmons over at On3. And a lot of Oklahoma fans saw the predictions flowing in for Rink to end up at A&M and kind of was like, all right, so what are we doing at the defensive line position? That's what we're going to talk about here today, because Oklahoma's getting some elite predictions for an elite 4-star defensive lineman prospect, and it's something that we got to talk about. But before we do it, I need to hear from y'all, so make sure you guys are joining the discussion, jumping down in the comments below, and giving me your guys' thoughts. Do you think Oklahoma can land this 4-star defensive lineman out of, I believe he's out of Maryland. I believe that's where he's from. But today we got to talk about Trenton Wilson, because we've talked about him on the podcast before. Oklahoma offered him, it was January, February, and you kind of saw the making of the relationship between Todd Bates. Bates had even went out there to go visit him with Venables. And then he ended up on campus with Oklahoma in the past month. And you kind of asked yourself, okay, so is a guy that has visited Penn State like 7 times and a guy that has been to Ohio State like 4 times, is he really potentially going to end up here at Oklahoma? Like, this is a kid from the DMV area. What is the actual odds here? And you might have heard me and Jay talk about it, saying, hey, like, I think Oklahoma's in a good spot. Because every time that I got a chance to talk to Trent Wilson, the mindset was, hey, Todd Bates, really great recruiter, really great guy. I would love to play for him, develops well, got a good relationship. And that's kind of what you kept hearing. But it was like, well, we need to see him get on campus first, right? Like, you really wanted to see this guy travel out to Norman and then kind of get a filler for, okay, how did the visit go? Would Oklahoma get an official visit? And then, would Oklahoma even get the last one? I think that was probably the thing that I was looking for. And although he hasn't announced his official visits yet, that's the one thing that I think was going to be a determining factor in this recruitment. If Oklahoma could get him back on campus and they could get him on the last visit, we all know this staff does a really good job at closing in those final moments. But Trenton Wilson is a guy you look to and go, I mean, right now he's only a 4-star, but this probably be a top 100 guy by the end of the cycle. I think he's got really great ability to get into that backfield. He can cause havoc, and you're going to see that multiple times here in the film. Just able to blow by those offensive linemen. But Trenton Wilson is 6'3", 270 pounds. 247 has him as the 141st player in the 247 composite rankings. And when you look at where he's ranked across the industry, which I love how On3 is able to do this, because they show you each individual site's rankings and then give you their composite rankings off of that. They have him ranked as the 94th player in the country. ESPN has him as the 136th player in the country. Rivals has him as the 127th player in the country. So you look at it, a lot of the evaluators across these other recruiting sites are high on Trent Wilson. And if you're Oklahoma and you get a guy out of the DMV area that's been to Penn State 7 times, been to Ohio State 4 times, A&M's in this recruitment, you feel really good about it. You feel really solid about this win. And in fact, like, you could even call this a big win, because this is normally a defensive lineman that you don't see Oklahoma land a whole lot. So Trent Wilson gets the prediction from Chad Simmons. You have to imagine, if it's coming from Chad Simmons, he's got some pretty good intel there. And hey, there actually might be something. But the other guy that Oklahoma's in for, and he's got a commitment upcoming, is Cole Breer, the 6'3", 250-pound defensive lineman out of Princeton, New Jersey, in Huntsville High School. This is a high school that Logan Howland was out of. So would have been a teammate with Logan Howland. Currently ranked as the 505th national player. Kind of, you would probably take flowing under the radar a little bit. Only got 26 offers. And I say only because usually these defensive linemen are sometimes up in the 30s. But Cole Breer is a guy that probably will end this cycle as a 4-star prospect. He's a guy that's rising in the rankings. I believe Rivals already has him as a 4-star. On3 is a little bit farther behind than 247 on the rankings, but he's got official visits set up with, or no, I think he's only got an official visit set up with Oklahoma. And then his final 3 is Stanford and Ohio State. Those are 2 schools, when you look at places that he's been to, he's only been there a couple of times. Ohio State actually is getting a visit on June 14th, Stanford on June 1st, and Oklahoma on June 21st. So Oklahoma is going to get the last visit here, it looks like, when it comes to OB. So If you look at the defensive line for Oklahoma, you've got Kamori Moore committed. I mean, if you get Trent Wilson and Cole Breiler, that's pretty good defensive line class for a defensive line class that we've talked about and said multiple times. It's not super deep for Oklahoma. Like, there's not a bunch of guys at the top that Oklahoma is going to be in the mix for. So you'd feel pretty good about it because Miguel Chavis, he's going to do his thing. Whether it's CJ Nixon or Max Granville or any of those guys, Miguel Chavis is going to take care of his part. Todd Bates, he's slowly getting this defensive line to where the Oklahoma Sooners want it. So, guys, I need to hear from y'all. Make sure you're joining the discussion, jumping down in the comments below and giving me your thoughts. Do you think the Oklahoma Sooners can land Trent Wilson, or do you agree with Chad Simmons' prediction? Because it seems like Oklahoma is trending in that direction. The writing might be on the wall. If you're an Oklahoma fan, you're pretty excited. Guys, YouTube wants you to watch one of these two videos, so make sure you guys are tuning in there as well.